We are a large system integrator located here in the United States. We are a cloud agnostic SI, so we work with the Microsofts, the Amazons, and even the Googles of the world when it comes to helping you transition your infrastructure that remains on-prem or in a co-located data center facility into the cloud to kind of help take advantage of all of the technology innovations that the large cloud providers are implementing into their hyperscale data centers located throughout the United States or even throughout the world, depending on your location. Ultimately, what I wanted to focus on today here is about as you look to migrate into the cloud and take advantage of the technological scale that each of the cloud service provider offers, how can you help design that cloud environment for sustainability? And a lot of this is centered around making sure that your architecture and design is fully integrated with around AI and ML and taking advantage of some of the intelligence that each of the cloud providers helps you leverage from a fully workload at scale perspective. Now, ultimately, the cloud landing zone architecture is designed around providing you a very prescriptive guidance coupled with sustainability best practices, right? So we want to make sure that those landing zone capabilities are modular by design, because depending on the workload that you have, you might have different requirements. Maybe, I dedicate one landing zone to IoT ingestion, right? So I need to have a certain amount of security for all of the streaming data that may be coming in. I might have a landing zone that's for something like a manufacturing element to my business. So maybe I need to focus a little bit more on network security, right? Being able to talk to all of my manufacturing equipment as they need to receive signals from the cloud in order to help kick off certain processes, certain automations from that perspective. So ultimately, we want to make sure it's modular and it's very flexible depending on the type of workload that's being run within the landing zone itself, but also it evolves with your business. As you grow and as your cloud footprint grows, right, your sustainability goals are going to grow and evolve with the cloud design itself. Because as you grow, Amazon, Microsoft, Google might make more technological innovations within their cloud platform, and you want to be flexible enough to take advantage of the new hardware and software capabilities that they introduce into their cloud service platform. So being able to be very flexible to take advantage of those new technologies that come in or new improvements that come in from a software perspective is going to best serve you within your cloud architecture design. And ultimately, it's going to be defined by those various decisions that you make. But once you kind of help make those decisions, it's a living, breathing entity. It's not, hey, I make this one decision in 2021, and that's the decision that's still going to be relevant in, say, 2025 or 2030. As you heard from Microsoft, and I'm sure as you'll hear from AWS after this, right? They've set certain goals from a sustainability perspective in the past, but they've modified and updated, maybe even accelerated those decisions as they've made progress towards them. So same thing from a cloud perspective, right? Just because the decision is made now does not mean that it will still hold true a few years down the road. Now, ultimately, both Microsoft and AWS, as well as Google, are responsible for the sustainability within their cloud. So they themselves, as you heard from Microsoft, and I'm sure you'll hear from Amazon here shortly, are making a number of improvements from a sustainable perspective within their data centers around servers, around cooling, around water consumption, waste, the building materials that they use, as well as their electrical supply coming into their data centers. I know AWS has a number of very highly renewable, highly structured data centers that they'll talk about. Another example I can think of is Microsoft has a new cloud data center up in Sweden, if my memory serves me correctly, and all of that is cooled from the outside air just because of its location, right? So these are a lot of innovative, sustainable ways that each of the providers is helping drive the sustainability of the cloud, but ultimately you as the customer are responsible for the sustainability inside of it. So things like utilization, code efficiency, the platform developments that you're using, the software applications, your overall data design and usage and data storage, those are all things that you as a consumer of the cloud are responsible for. And so it's on a company like Trace3 that we come in and help our clients be as efficient as possible around making sure those key tenets from a sustainability perspective are put in place and meet with your goals as you drive towards a fully sustainable environment within the cloud. Now, there are three kind of key pillars that I see from a cloud landing zone perspective around sustainability. And the first is to understand your impact. And as you heard from Microsoft earlier, they have a tool that kind of helps you understand that impact. The other cloud providers, I'm sure, have a similar tool as well. But ultimately, we want to develop a workload model to analyze not only your current impact, but also understand your future workload impacts around the resources that you're leveraging from within the cloud. For an example, you could use something like a machine learning service to detect abnormal behavior in industrial machinery. So maybe I have a certain machine that operates along my factory floor. I can leverage technology connected to the cloud to detect data that's coming out of that machine to conduct preventative maintenance, which will then ultimately reduce the risk of any environmental incidents that may be caused by an unexpected failure, right? Lost in money, lost in production time, all of that, to ensure that that machinery continues to operate at peak efficiency. So that's a good understanding of how am I leveraging the cloud to not only see what type of impact I'm having from a total resource perspective, but then turning around and understanding the impact of my non-technical equipment that may be running on-prem. So machines that run my factory floor, machines that may be handling my power consumption, as Corbin put it earlier, around the battery packs, things of that nature, right? All of that has the ability to connect up into the cloud and can leverage a AI ML type service to detect certain behaviors. And we can use that telemetry to conduct very proactive capabilities around reducing the risk of any type of incidents that may be caused by all of those various devices. Hospital IoT is one strong example, right? There's a lot of life-saving IoT devices that hospitals depend on. And so being able to be preventative in that nature instead of reactive can help save lives in that aspect. Now, our second pillar is establishing goals as an organization to make sure that you're establishing a very thought out long-term sustainability goal through very simple actions to reduce things like compute or storage. A good example would be as a Netflix, for example. One of their things that they do is they host a lot of their content that they host on their platform in data centers that are located very close to their customers. So as I go on to my Netflix and want to watch Squid Games, for example, very popular, I'm streaming that from a data center that's very close to me here in South Carolina versus maybe I'm streaming it out of somewhere like Los Angeles or Dallas, Texas, or something of that nature. So that's a goal that they had, right? Being able to move data as close as possible to reduce the storage required per something like a per transaction. Now, part of that all goes into the overall architect and design of their cloud workload. And that's true for every customer. The more that you can architect and design your cloud environment to make sure that you're reducing the impact on not only you as an organization, but your customers as well. And something as, a measurable unit like a per transaction, in the case of storage, or a per user, will go a long way into helping you be sustainable. Something you could present to a CIO or a CFO and saying, hey, we've moved all these workloads as close to our business units or our customers. So they're seeing, faster response times. They're seeing lower per transaction levels. So we're becoming more sustainable. And that'll be great for something that you can kind of help highlight. So an example goal would be like all of your VM hosts, right? Establishing a baseline of at least 60% utilization. I don't necessarily want to be running a VM that's only consuming 10 or 20%, right? That's very inefficient. I'm using a lot of extra power for no reason. So a baseline of 60% is a good way to kind of help reduce your power that you're drawing in from a VM perspective. And so that'll help you from a sustainability perspective. And now our third pillar around our cloud landing zones for sustainability is maximizing the available technology that the cloud offers you from a sustainability perspective. So new technologies, things around new chips from a hardware perspective that are more efficient, taking advantage of serverless technologies, AI, ML, IoT. The more you can kind of move towards a platform as a service or cloud native type service, the more efficient and more sustainable you're drawing on from a cloud perspective. Now, the cloud landing zones design should absolutely help you facilitate the rapid adoption of those newer, more efficient cloud technologies. You still have to go make sure that you're going through an evaluation process, but the more we can open up those doors to make those technologies easier to understand, easier to adopt, to make sure that they're moving along, can help an organization move towards those sustainabilities. And then also leveraging managed services, things like Kubernetes, AWS Fargate, Azure Kubernetes Service, Azure Digital Twins, things like that can help you orchestrate and automate a lot of your serverless or PaaS level cloud services to where they'll become efficient based on the demand that's coming in to the various workloads that you're hosting. Something like VM compute auto scaling, AWS EC2 auto scaling capabilities, Azure has VM scale sets, things of that nature, right? Being able to quickly scale out and scale down based on the demand that you're having. So you only are leveraging the amount of power, networking, and compute that is needed at the time, and then returning back to a very baseline stable state to make sure that you're not consuming more than that's needed. Implementing certain storage policies. Microsoft was talking about the petabytes of data that they have that they're starting to transition onto these new storage technologies around glass. But even in the cloud, within the S3 buckets and Azure storage accounts, you can implement storage policies to automatically move all that stale data to cold or archive storage based on usage. So after 30 days, I can have a storage policy that says, hey, nobody's touched this in 30 days. Go ahead and kick it over to cool storage. Not only are you helping the cloud providers be more efficient, but you're saving on your cloud bill because it's a lot cheaper for you to consume storage in either cooled or archive level storage offerings from the various cloud providers. So you're saving on your bill. You're helping Amazon and Microsoft save on their cloud operating costs. So it's kind of a win-win from that perspective, and you're maximizing the value that you're getting out of your cloud environment. So ultimately, the killer feature that we see from a landing zone perspective, right, is this modular, repeatable infrastructure, right? And it's fully integrated. So things around governance, identity, security, and networking are all part of the cloud landing zone capacity and architecture that Trace3 helps design. We make sure we build in things like auto scaling, serverless, event-driven architecture, right, to maximize your overall resource utilization. And we make sure this is all defined and provisioned through code. The reason why we do it through code is to reduce the overall administrative overhead, and it's something that's trackable, repeatable, and less prone to any type of errors. So from an overall organizational perspective, you help start moving towards this more DevOps related mindset from an overall cloud driven architecture perspective. Now, all of those best practices are combined through what we decide as these 8 critical design areas to kind of help you translate all of those various requirements into cloud constructs and capabilities. These decisions will be made through all of the various areas, and these are kind of the top ones that we define from a cloud perspective. So things like enrollment, identity and access management, networking, business continuity and disaster management and monitoring, DevOps, DevSecOps, security, governance, and compliance, all of those areas. And as you can see from my next diagram, right, all of these things are very interwoven and interconnected. So as we come in and build up these landing zone things, combining all of these best practice areas in a very easy, siloed fashion to kind of help provide repeatable architecture designs as you scale out from a sustainability perspective within the cloud environment. As a final note, I'd like to thank you for all for watching us go through kind of our cloud environment. As Ron stated earlier, we here at Trace3 are a system integrator from a cloud perspective. So we help companies like yourselves in various verticals across the spectrum, whether they be government, healthcare, manufacturing, financial, you name it. Help transition into the cloud and take advantage a lot of the agility and flexibility around sustainability from the cloud service providers, and really help maximize the investment that you get from your cloud service providers. So if any of you have any questions, things that you've been looking at from a cloud perspective, even if you're already in the cloud today, a lot of companies have already transitioned into the cloud, and maybe their design isn't the most efficient, or you're running into certain headache issues, right? You can still come in and take a look at your existing environment, optimize it for sustainability in your organization going forward, and help maximize the investment you're getting out of your cloud environment today.